24. Now we want to take a quick moment to talk about the most outstanding folks for us in 2024. So we're going to each take a stab at Artist of the Year, Group of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, and some other recognition we think is worth mentioning. Now, again, these individual categories, I think, should be based on everything: albums, singles, live performances, virality, people who didn't just show up but shined throughout the year. So, Frank, let's tackle these one at a time. Who do you think is your Artist of the Year, the one person who stood out as having the best year in the Americana space in terms of creativity, quality, exposure, and so on?
So, for everybody out there, Jason and I did not discuss our lists or our picks ahead of time. So the fact that we both chose Trail of Flowers as album of the year, that wasn't planned. Okay. And now I'm kind of thinking, before I give who my Artist of the Year is, I wonder if we chose the same one again.
It's hard not to.
It's hard not to. I know, because my Artist of the Year, and based on all the criteria that Jason mentioned, it has to be Sierra Farrell.
Yep.
And she didn't come out of nowhere. If you've been, paying attention in this genre for a while, you know that she was, on her way before Trail of Flowers came out. Okay. So, and I think the duet that she did with Zach Bryan, Holy Roller, I think that helped out a lot too. And that's one of my favorite songs. So, but that did not come out in 2024, so I couldn't include it. But anyway, Sierra Farrell, she's just at the top of the heap right now. And, she's nominated for all these awards. And I finally got to see her at Evanston Folk Festival. She played 2 sold-out shows in Chicago earlier in the year that I could not make it to, sadly. But, I think she's really made a name for herself, and she's going to be around for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, there's no question she was my Artist of the Year as well. The only thing that would have given her, or the only artist that would have given her any competition in my mind at all, was Tyler Childers, based on his enormously successful tour and exposure that he, went out and earned the hard way by just playing his ass off and playing a lot of shows in a lot of places. The only thing that really kept him out of contention for this was Rustin in the Rain came out in 2023. So, right. And we've talked before on this show that it's calendar year for us. We're not going to do this bullshit release date on some other. If it came out in 2023, doesn't count. So if Rustin in the Rain had come out on January 1st, this would have been a competition for me. But as it wasn't really a competition. I thought Tyler was fantastic all year in becoming bigger than he ever probably dreamt he would. But for the totality of everything, creating new content, creating new music, performing, establishing themselves, Sierra Farrell, hands down, Artist of the Year by a long shot, I think. And the only other entity that I think could come into competition with her in this category they're not in this category. That would be a group. I don't think it would be an individual. I think it would be a group, which will lead us to our next one. Right?
Yes. So we'll turn our attention to the group, not an individual. And there are lots of great bands and groups, some that we've already mentioned: the Secret Sisters, the Black Crowes, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. Silverado had a big year. Even Hayes Carl got together with the Band of Heathens to form Hayes and the Heathens. So, Falls, who is your group of the year in 2024?
I mean, again, I don't think there's much competition here. It's got to be Red Clay Strays. Very similar to Sierra Farrell. They came out with a fantastic album this year. They went from this little band that got mentioned every now and then to completely blowing up. Karen and I think I told this story on the show before, when we went to Railbird in Lexington back in the summer. Unfortunately, the Red Clay Strays had been booked on the smallest of the stages on one of the days, and like an aerial shot made it to Facebook or made it on social media of the Railbird grounds while the Red Clay Strays were playing. I mean, it looked like Woodstock. Like it was this one big tent where the stage was and just people fanning out from it. And there were other people playing at the same time on other stages, but everybody was watching Red Clay Strays. And they just had one of those years where they exploded. Thank goodness, because their music's fantastic. They deserved every bit of it. But in terms of groups, I think the only other one that I could think of that really had a banner year for themselves and had a lot of interesting storylines along with it was Silverado, because they were Mike and the Moon Pies. They changed their name. They came out with a new album, a new brand, all that good stuff. So it was an exciting year for them, but they didn't have quite the explosion in terms of commercial success that Red Clay Strays did, making all the, nighttime talk shows and all that kind of stuff. So it's Red
Right.
Clay Strays far and away above. And I think Silverado comes in there maybe with a second place finish.
All right, excellent. And you know how I know that Red Clay Strays have achieved commercial success?
How's that?
I've mentioned before in my classroom, I make a playlist, a classroom playlist, and I allow the students to write requests and they put them in a little box and I go through it because I have to make sure they're school appropriate. And a couple of my students who are more fans of the likes of like Taylor Swift and Morgan Wallen requested songs from Red Clay Strays. So that's how I know that they have achieved commercial success. Okay.
There you go.
Whether you agree with that or not, that was telling to me. So I guess I have to share now who my group of the year is. Okay. So this is a tough one for me because, I listen to certain groups a lot, more than others, but they don't necessarily have new material from 2024. So I went with the one, the group that put out new material that I like the best out of, all of them of the year. All right. And that is American Aquarium.
Nice.
So yeah, I gushed about the band and BJ earlier. So I really don't have anything new to add to that. So I'm just going to go with them. I did get to see the band back in October and it wasn't I believe that was my first time seeing the full band. I'd only seen BJ solo a couple of times. So yes, that was my first time seeing the full band and it was incredible.
Nice. Well, that's one of the ones that I have not seen yet. So I am excited about catching them sometime in 2025 for sure. I've heard a lot of great things about them live, and I've obviously heard a lot of their music, which I really like. And BJ is, as we've said before on this and previous episodes, seems to be just a super nice guy. So they're a band you kind of root for anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. 2024 also saw a lot of newcomers feeding at the trough of Americana music. Some, like the Red Clay Strays, seem to be newcomers, but they've been around making some noise for a few years now. So we're going to base this one on artists who released their first full-length albums in 2024. That gives us a nice, neat qualifier for who could be a newcomer of the year. So, Frank, based on that, who were you most impressed with as a newcomer in 2024?
I am going to have to go with John Mook. Again, totally impressed me at Evanston Folk Festival. And his story is impressive too. I mean, he's originally from Uganda and he went to, British boarding school, now living in Austin, Texas. He's playing on the Kaimo cruise in the spring. The album Flying Away from top to bottom is just lovely. And he's another one I would just like to see have all the success.
Cool. I'm glad. I can't disagree with that one. Very good. I've heard 2 or 3 of his songs. I haven't had the chance to do a deep dive yet, but the 2 or 3 songs that I've heard were really good and beautiful songs. And he's one of the handful of artists that kind of makes the new artist rotation on WFPK here in Louisville, which I've mentioned several times on the show. I fill in there from time to time. And when an artist percolates there and I haven't heard of them when they do, it's like I missed something. Damn it. Like, I hate myself for not knowing who they are. And so as soon as I saw his name, I'm like, wait a minute, I got to dig into this guy. Right. So very good. Very good. Very good choice for that one. But good stuff. All right. So my newcomer of the year, I got so excited when we were able to get this young lady on our show. So my newcomer of the year is someone we've interviewed. She's a friend of the show now. I cannot wait to see her live. She's got to get out to the East Coast more. But Kimmy Bitter and her album Old School just stole my attention this year. I loved her album. I loved her approach. I loved her vibe. Everything about her was just super cool. Very throwback to 60s and early 70s country. Even wears the go-go boots and the go-go skirts and stuff. And that's just her vibe. We had her on the show before. We'll make sure there's a link to the episode so you can go back and check that one out. But I just thought Kimmy Bitter took the Americana space and the country space by storm this year. If she had done so with a record company, she'd be in the same sentence with Sierra Farrell right now, I think, in a lot of ways. But she kind of did it as an independent artist. So there wasn't a big booking agent booking her shows. She wasn't booked on with a bunch of media and TVs, interviews and stuff like that. I mean, we got her on Roots Music Rambler because I emailed her directly and she responded. So she was so early in her kind of rise, and she hit on such a great vibe with Old School and the songs that she wrote for that it was just a great year for her. And so I thought, that's definitely deserving of a Newcomer of the Year award in somebody's list, even if it's just mine. So I did want to mention, though, I had a couple of people as asterisks on here. Another friend of the show, Leon Meitzen, hadn't gotten quite the exposure as a Kimmy Bitter, or certainly not a Sierra Farrell, but his singing and his songwriting's fantastic. And if you haven't heard his stuff, he's another friend of the show. Go check. He's got a new single out, which we'll update more about it here in a minute when we do our Where Are They Now list. But Leon Meitzen was on my list, and Melissa Carper as well. I really enjoy her Born Dinya album. I bought it not on a whim. I was like, oh my God, my record store guest room here in Louisville that I go to all the time, they have Melissa Carper. This is great. So I got her and Benjamin Todd, I think, in Amethyst Kia in one fell swoop one day. And I came home, and I think I listened to that album 3 times before I put it down. And I just think she's got a unique sound and a unique perspective, and I really like her music. So she was on my short list as well, to mention a few others. So there you go.
Very good. And Kimmy Bitter, didn't she say that she does like all of her own like publicity and branding and marketing? So, she deserves all of the accolades, definitely, because she's working her butt off.
Well, I can imagine if she is working on another album, which I hope she is, and it comes out and it's half as good really as Old School, it's not going to be long before she ain't doing any of that stuff anymore. She's going to have a record company and a big deal, and unless she just, holds on to that independent artist kind of vibe, which maybe she will. But if she just gets a booking agent and gets her out in front of more people, I mean, she's going to explode. So she's just so talented, so good.